I came here leading a South African delegation on behalf of President Zuma, together with Minister Ben Martins, Honorable Minister for Energy, to attend this third Nuclear Security Summit here in The Hague. And that this is an initiative that was started by the US government through President Obama, and the first summit took place in Washington in 2010. The second summit took place in 2012 in Seoul, South Korea. Focus of this initiative was that 53 now countries who share concern on how to keep nuclear material and technology safe, and that it doesn't fall safe as in national mechanisms, but also working together with the international community, that for those who possess this technology do not find themselves not having proper national safeguards, and that this material or the technology then fall into wrong hands, or rogues if you like, or terrorists. The initiative was applauded when it started. What we came to do here in the third round of this Nuclear Security Summit was to say that it was envisaged that it wouldn't, this initiative, which is supposed to be informal, self-selected, 53 member countries, come back to the drawing board and say the most important organ or institution of the UN that should not lose the centrality of its role in coordinating work for nuclear security should remain the IAEA. And that from this process, from 2010 to 2014, we should be able to say we have identified the following gaps, we have identified the following objectives, but then go back to the drawing board, to the IAEA, to capacitate, to strengthen the capacity of the IAEA to deal with those gaps that we would have identified. But also, secondly, to once again say that this is an international or a global challenge. It would need the totality of the leadership of all member states of the UN. And that's why we emphasize on the centrality of the role of the IAEA, because there we would be as inclusive as we should be. Our view was that even when this initiative was started, it was never meant to exclude the member states of the UN who don't, or who happen by any reason not to be, to find themselves in these 53 member states that get together every biennially. Now, the review was done as to post-2016, which would be the next summit. Many of us thought this would, the 2016 summit then should be a wrap-up summit, back to the US, to then say, this is the work we've done in this initiative, which was informal, conducted and led by the 53 member countries. It needs to go back home now, back to the IAEA. So the debates continue. Our Sherpas have been given the responsibility to continue to work with the Ministers of International Relations and Foreign Affairs and Ministers of Energy to consolidate the work of the nuclear security summit, so that we bring some conclusions come the summit, as President Obama said in Chicago in 2016. Looking back, we think the awareness about the possible dangers that can be brought by lack of safeguards or updates of safeguards, but also the reality of a threat by this material falling into wrong hands, but also by working with states or member countries within our grouping and outside to share information on, should such a danger occur, how do we make sure that it doesn't cause a national or international catastrophe. It's important that we always going back to the multilateral forum. So basically that's what this summit was about. And we had thanked the government and the people of Netherlands for having hosted this the summit in the most professional and most hospitable manner possible.
Yes, Minister, you said this was the third summit, and also it is meant to review progress that has been made to ensure that nuclear materials are not in the wrong hands or used for terrorism. Would you say for the past 3 years, governments have done enough to ensure, governments worldwide, are they doing enough to ensure that these material are not in their own hands?
Well, as far as we are concerned, we have strengthened our safeguards. We, as South Africa, we have been working with the IEA. The IEA inspectors regularly visit our facilities in South Africa. But what we also confirmed and emphasized at this summit is that the fear of what can go wrong with nuclear technology should not block our inalienable right to use the highly enriched uranium or low enriched uranium for peaceful means. We have no ambition of developing a bomb again. That is part of the apartheid history. But we want to use this resource. We had emphasized and reconfirmed that uranium is one of the important minerals that we would want to have the opportunity, like others, to beneficiate for our energy needs, but also to continue championing production of medical isotopes. And we are quite humbled that we have become amongst the major producers, if not amongst the top 2, if not 1, producers of medical isotopes that helps in fighting cancer. So yes, many countries, through their national statements in the summit, have shared information about how they had used this process to improve safeguards nationally in their own national mechanisms, but also how we should work together to coordinate and consolidate information amongst member states, but also deposit such information with IEA so that those member countries that do not get invited to or are not members of this initiative do not get excluded.
The next summit will be held in Chicago in 2016. What is South Africa's expectations from that summit?
Our expectations is that indeed, let's go back to the drawing board. Like I said, we anticipate that really if our shepherds and our colleagues, ministers, do their job well, despite many other engagements that would come up in the 2 years, that we work towards wrapping up and broaden this initiative, that it we need to go back to the UN. We need to strengthen the multilateral fora where everybody feels accommodated and part of through the IAEA. So we are envisaging that this would be not only just a review, but a wrap-up.
Yeah, during your visit here, you also hosted ministers from the BRICS countries. Could you just shed some light? What was the purpose of this meeting?
Well, it has become a BRICS tradition that where there is an opportunity on the sidelines of a international get-together, BRICS heads of state or ministers will take advantage of that to exchange notes, exchange information, and as the current chair of BRICS, we thought it would be important that because there have been several developments in each of our regions, neighborhoods, that we utilize this opportunity as ministers of international relations and foreign affairs to update each other. For example, South Africa used the opportunity to share information, broad information about issues, peace and security in our own neighborhood and broadly in the continent. Latin American, through Brazil, we got an update of the latest developments there, amongst them being the inauguration of the new president of Chile, and beyond that, the developments in Venezuela. We also got an update on the developments in Eastern Europe from the Russians, just to give just a few examples. We also took advantage of this meeting to congratulate Brazil as they move towards hosting the FIFA World Cup. As a BRICS member country state that had hosted the last FIFA Soccer World Cup, it's just a coincidence that we're also handing over the cup and the hosting of such to Brazil, but that we wish to take the opportunity of this as all BRICS member states to congratulate Russia for having hosted the Winter Olympic Games in Sochi, but also wish Brazil well as they're about to host the FIFA World Cup, Soccer World Cup, but also to give Brazil an opportunity to update us on preparations for the next BRICS summit that will take place in July.
Yes, you said you developed recent developments in the regions, whether it's in Latin America, Europe, and Africa. Did you, in that meeting, discuss the situation in Ukraine or Crimea, and what was the position of the BRICS countries on that?
Well, like I said, we used the opportunity to update each other. We listened, and of course, we have been engaging on the sidelines of the summit here. We've been having several pull-asides with other countries explaining what they think is going on in that region. Our overall assessment so far on a region that really it's not in our own neighborhood is that from our experience, nothing will ever take the place of dialogue and engagements. And we just got information that there were several meetings that would have included a meeting between the acting minister, Honorable Minister Lavrov, and the acting minister from Ukraine. So we encourage such kind of engagements.
And lastly, you have just been having a meeting with the Dutch Foreign Ministry. What was the purpose of this meeting?
Well, we have got historic ties and very good and warm bilateral relations with the Netherlands, or between Netherlands and South Africa. Our relations dates back to our difficult past, but also to the fact that one of the strongest international solidarity movement or anti-apartheid movement we got during the difficult days of struggle were Dutch people. It might have been a very is the irony of history, but that's what had happened. That you would find majority of the Dutch people celebrating the 20th anniversary of South Africa's freedom as much as South Africans would. So in marking that, we think the Dutch people have joined in our celebration, and there are joint programs that are taking place between celebrations of the 20th anniversary of our freedom between here and South Africa. So we took advantage of this bilateral meeting this morning to reconfirm our historic relations, our good and developing bilateral relations at all fronts, political, economic, and socio-culturally. We are satisfied with the outcome of this meeting. We also know that this meeting also gave us an opportunity to look at trilateral cooperation on issues peace and security on our continent.
And how would you characterize the bilateral relationships between South Africa and the Netherlands at this point in time?
We would say that bilateral relations between South Africa and the Netherlands are both historic, warm, cordial, with a lot of substance and movement forward on both the political, economic, and social, socio-cultural engagements.